That made me win. I said, I can't play football forever. But I tell you, I can always look at
In 1971, Joseph Profit was the 7th overall pick in the NFL draft by the Atlanta Falcons, the only first-round draft pick out of ULM, or Northeast at the time. Now Profit lives in Atlanta.
By that time, the phone rang again, and it was Frank Wall, the president of the Atlanta Falcons, informed me that they were drafting me as their #1 pick.
The biggest reaction by the public came in 1971 when Atlanta selected Joe Profit their #1 draft choice. From a small school in northeast Louisiana came what many hoped was the answer to a less than efficient running game. But it was not in the stars for Joe Profit to run that rookie year. Here returning a kickoff against the St. Louis Cardinals, Joe is hit in the knee. He tears cartilage and ligaments, out for the season. Doctors told Joe he might even have trouble walking normal again. So what happened to Joe Profit? He played football 5 more years, a couple in Birmingham with the World Football League. But after that, where did he go?
Everybody dreams of having something of their own, whether it's a house, family, or in some cases, a business. Well, today we're going to spend time talking to Joe Profit. You may remember him as a former Falcon. Today, he's a very successful business person who is up and nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year.
We worked very hard to get to where we are, and really we're just starting. This industry is dynamic. It's a moving target. It changed literally by the week. I've always had the attitude that challenged me with an opportunity, and this industry does. The most exciting thing happened to me since football has been this business. I was drafted by the Falcons. I was the #1 choice in 1971. Seemed like a long time ago. And played in New Orleans with the Saints. And of course, I finished my career in the World Football League. I guess the transition from professional sports or any sports into business was a very slow and painful one. However, for me, it was not that difficult because I love to take on a challenge. So when the opportunity presented itself, which actually we sort of created the window of opportunity with our persistence, and have taken the same ideas that I've learned in football, that discipline, the idea that you don't lose, time just run out. And in football, we would always say, well, wait till next game or the next year. The determination that I've learned, I use in business. And I try to pass that on to everybody in this company, that we don't know how to quit. We don't know how to say we can't, because if we can conceive it, it can be done. Came to Atlanta, that's how I got here, and I've been here ever since. I played out my contract here, went to New Orleans. Came into the league, leading the league in rushing. My 4th game, got my knee wiped out, missed the rest of that season. Never regained my speed, but as a result of trade-off, I was allowed to get involved in business. The owner of the Falcons at that time was Rankin Smith, and every day after practice, I can remember trying to go by to talk to Rankin to try to get involved with his businesses. He owned the Life of Georgia, among other businesses. And I'll never forget my coach at that time was Norm Van Brocklin telling me, leave Rankin alone, your job is football. And me saying, no, I want to do something more than football. I want to do some business. I want to be able to have a future beyond football. Because I had seen all the guys in my neighborhood that had played in the league had come back, and they were looking for jobs. And James Harris, I'll never forget, my very good friend, James Harris, who now is president with the Jaguars, would always come back when he was up in New York playing with Buffalo, and would tell us, guys, when you make it, always get to know the owners. Always get to know the business people in your community where you play, where you were drafted, because these are the guys that can help you in your business. And I never forgot that. And every time Norm Van Brock would tell me to stay away from Rankin, I'd sneak around. One time, I sat there, and this custodian saw me sitting in the lobby waiting for him, and he said, "Son, you come up here every other day." He said, "What you come up here for?" I said, "I'm waiting to see Mr. Smith." He said, "You want to see Rankin? You go around to the back there. He always come in that way." So I went around there, and I sat and I waited, and he saw me, and he said, "Joe Prophet, come on, son." He said, "You just won't give up." And he allowed me to work in his insurance company and work with his brother-in-law in marketing. And that's where I got my start in business. And then from there, you know, I got my first International House of Pancakes franchise in 1975. And at that time, I was the first African-American to get one.
African-American business owners are involved in the cleanup of Kuwait. BET News correspondent Greg Morrison has a report.
The war in Kuwait lasted 73 days. It took an estimated 100,000 lives, including 305 American soldiers. The United States spent $61 billion to wage the battle, leaving that country devastated. The government also pledged to help rebuild Kuwait, and so far close to $1 billion in restoration contracts have been awarded. Black-owned firms have managed to get only a small percentage of those deals. One of them, Communications International Incorporated of suburban Atlanta, successfully outbid giant corporate rivals to provide telecommunications services for companies that are reconstructing war-damaged oil fields and refineries. An advantage for CII was being there already.
We were less than 300 miles from Kuwait City and had been there for several months, so we bid it on the project. We had to bid it twice to win it, but we won it. And we designed the system, the network, to communicate throughout the Middle East, the UK, and the rest of the world.
Both companies spent their own money to go after the contracts, and in the process learned that doing business in that part of the world requires different techniques.
Typically, you need to have a sponsor to send you a letter of invitation. Once you're there, you must have specific goals to accomplish. And basically exercising the most patience and persistence we've ever done.
It's been nearly a year since African Americans first went to the Persian Gulf to help fight a war there. Now the government is taking a small number of black businessmen to the Persian Gulf this month to help them develop commercial contacts in that part of the world. In Norcross, Georgia, I'm Greg Morrison for BET News.
I grew the business from about $250,000 to over $110 million. We grew from 3 employees to over 420 employees. We grew from an office in my basement in my restaurant to 37 cities and 9 countries. We have helped a lot of families to achieve their dream, the American dream and the European dream. We had an office in London where we used that for our operations in the Middle East. We were in the United Arab Emirates in war in Gulf War under George Bush Sr., where we were doing business in Riyadh before the war started in Kuwait. So we have been able, in the business field, we've been able to do some great things, and we're still allowed to penetrate new ground. When we got our first contract in Kuwait, $50 million contract, and we were the surviving country, the only company in Kuwait after the war, was there for a year. We provided all the connectivity out of the country. It was our phone system that was transmitting all the data going back and forth out of Kuwait. And that I had been a Republican all through college, a member of the Young Republicans at the university. And we became very good friends. One thing led to another one. And Matt asked me would I be interested in working with Reagan, and who then was Governor Reagan. And of course I said yes. Then later on I was named chairman for Blacks for Reagan Bush. I headed up the entire minority effort for the state to bring people together to help support his presidency.
Their hearty endorsement stunned Atlanta, the nation perhaps, and apparently Governor Reagan.
I realize that such a thing could happen. I'm overwhelmed.
How did this happen? Well, the man who pulled it off with some gentle arm twisting over the past 2 weeks is Joe Prophet, the recently appointed Black Republican state chairman. What impact will this have on Election Day?
Will poor people now support Ronald Reagan, you believe? Honestly.
I think they will, honestly. Once I was poor, and in a lot of ways I'm still poor. And I think that when they see really what could be done, what hasn't been done, then I think they will.
Joe Prophet, a businessman, is also head of the Georgia Black Republicans for Ronald Reagan. Let's start out with you, sir. Your thoughts on how this debate went and who actually won?
Well, I think the debate was very well, and I think clearly that Governor Reagan won on most of the points, especially about inflation. He blames our inflation on OPEC. I think OPEC doesn't have anything to do with it. I think it's the leadership.
Does that help the Republican effort here locally in Atlanta, this debate?
Well, I think it does. When the local people realize that OPEC supplies oil to West Germany, also to Japan, they're totally dependent upon it, and their inflation rate is about 6%.
Mr. Gordy, you, sir, what do you think of the debate, and do you think it'll really mean much to Atlantans come Tuesday?
I sure do. I thought the debate was fine. I feel like Carter won it, hands down, President Carter, and I think it'll be a big help to him here in Atlanta to get a few of the votes that have been undecided, you know.
Do you think he was on the offensive or the defensive?
I think he was on the offensive.
And that was good?
Yeah, that was good. That's where it should have been.
Okay, so we're at a standstill here between party officials, as we might expect across the country. No real winner from my unofficial sample. Gentlemen?